Sorry, I'm not really used to using this application. I don't really. What the hell? What is that? Here, wait. Let me see if I can grab my coffee. Wait. Where's my hand? There. Oh, my hand's like huge. It looks like you're indifferent towards me because you're like sitting away from me. Keep talking, buddy. How long have you been sim racing for?
I guess unofficially since about '98. I got into it with Gran Turismo, and if you consider that a racing sim, then yeah, '98. And then I was always into racing games, but in terms of a pure sim, I took a break till like 2017, I guess, and that's when I got into Project Cars 1 and Assetto Corsa on console. So that's when I kind of officially jumped into the world of racing sims. And I got Assetto Corsa just because it had a cool Ferrari on the cover. And then fired it up, and it just absolutely kicked my butt just over and over. I just, like, even on very easy mode, I couldn't even get, I could barely stay on the same lap as the leaders. And did a little research, and everything pointed to you need to get a wheel. So I bought a used G29, and I was kind of off after that. So
that feeling that you got from, transitioning from a controller to a wheel, did you get that same sort of feeling when you stepped up from the G29 to like a more expensive piece of gear, like a higher end wheelbase? Did you get that sort of same sensation, like, oh wow, this is so much better?
Yep, you bet.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I got my AccuForce, I guess it was a Black Friday sale in 2017, and yeah, because of course when you get a new piece of gear, you don't dial in the settings yet. You just use it, on the default, which was 100%. So I jumped into Assetto Corsa, Porsche 911 RSR, and just sitting in the pits at Imola, and you could feel the engine just at idle, just vibrating through the wheel. And I was like, oh man, like this is just a completely different animal. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I guess in terms of, is it the same level of excitement? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, you're dealing with something on a higher level, but yeah, going from controller to G29, that was such a major step.
What's the reason behind 604? Like in the...
It's funny. It's my area code. I'm in the Vancouver area. And yeah, so 604 is our oldest area code. We have a few now. But yeah, it's funny. Like, I didn't know it was going to become whatever it is now. I thought this would just be me uploading, and if 10 people watch my videos, that would be amazing, kind of thing. And so I just threw it up there, Simracing604. Nobody's ever going to know me. Who cares? It's not like I'm building a brand or anything. And then, and then I guess about 2 years ago, I was just like, this name sucks. And then, yeah, I was like, I'll change it. Let me do some research. Let me think of a good name. And then somebody sent me the logo I have now. And I just love the logo. Like, it's just a really awesome logo. And so I'm like, well, I can't change it. I guess I just got to ride this out. So, yeah, that's kind of the history of 604.
I mean, I think it helps, like, because I mean, if your name was just like sim racing, it'd just be such a general thing. So it's like you're 604, Like, I actually have a kind of a funny story about that. Like, when I started my YouTube channel, I decided I was gonna name it the most ridiculous thing I could think of. So if you look at my HTTPS whatever thing, yeah. In some browsers, it'll show as I drink my own pizzle. And I'm like, damn, I contacted YouTube to change that, but I still see it sometimes pop up. And I'm like, well, sometimes it'll say Douglas Thompson after the slash, and sometimes it'll say that. I'm like, I hope people don't see that still. But so yeah, similar story, I guess. But yours is a little bit less embarrassing, I think. But I actually got into sim racing because for shoulder recovery. Yeah, because I just had surgery on my left shoulder about a year ago. I thought it'd be nice to kind of build up the muscle for driving my real car in a simulator. So
right on. Yeah, I first discovered you. It was quite recently, actually, and I was looking to see if I could set up motion in WRC 10. Oh, and you had done a video on WRC 9 setting it up. So I figured the same could apply. So that's how I found your channel. And I was like, this dude's got like a really good personality. Like, this is a pretty awesome channel. So yeah, I subscribed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's been great. It's been great. You got that personality. I never had the YouTube personality like mine. I'm a laid back dude. This is who I am. And you got people like yourself, people like Gamer Muscle, and who else? Anyway, just high energy, charismatic people. And I'm always envious of you guys because you can just be on cue, just like turned on. People enjoy seeing you on camera and that, and yeah, I've always been jealous.
Different personalities, like everyone has their place in this world, and we all fit together, so it's really cool.
Yeah, and you're rocking the CSL DD now, is that right?
Yeah.
I think you did a video on 5 things you didn't like. Is that right?
Yeah, so I wanted to provide a transparent look at the device. And my whole point with the 5 things I didn't like about the video was they were relatively insignificant things. And I get a lot of people kind of giving me shit about that. And they're saying like, what are you doing complaining about that wheelbase? This is awesome for the price point. I'm like, that's my point. My point is it is awesome for the price point.
Yeah.
I do think it could be cheaper based on, it's just a motor with a aluminum extrusion housing. I mean, that's all it is. I do think all direct drive wheelbases and such could be cheaper because it's such a simple pre-existing technology that we're just kind of just adapting to sim racing, the software and then a few bits of circuitry is all that stands between you and an escalator, like.
True.
So I'm really looking forward to comparing it against the Alpha Mini, though.
I just wanted to know what to expect, and when I saw it, because I think honestly, I love the angle you did with the 5 things you don't like, because it's been overwhelmingly positive, and good for them, right? Good for Fanatec. If you put something out and you can hardly find anything negative about it, you've done your job, right? But it's also nice to see counterpoints. It's also nice to hear people like you saying it's great, but and get that other side of the coin.
It's really important to I mean, we're releasing content for people to spend their hard-earned money on this stuff. So I feel like it's our responsibility to provide us transparent of like, these are the bad things. This is what I can find. Yeah. These are the good things. Like you make your own decision, like, But I think it's really important to provide that rather than just saying like, go buy it, it's awesome. Because for all you know, those little negative things could be the difference between someone wanting it and not wanting it. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And I run into that all the time, like because my channel is focused, mostly on games and game updates and new mods and things like that. And yeah, you can get these small things that are deal breakers. Like for example, I'm a big fan of Automobilista 1. I think it's one of the best pure racing simulators that's ever been made, but there's no VR. And so, it's important for me to state that up front, right? If I'm doing a long-term review on it or something like that, like, look, guys, this could be the end for you. Like, it's otherwise fantastic. But if you're a pure VR guy or girl, this could be the undoing of it for you. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. It's good to talk about both sides of the coin.
So, speaking of VR, how important do you think is VR to the future of sim racing?
That's a great question. I think we're probably in a really tough time for VR. I got into it in 2017, and it was one of the most mind-blowing experiences I've ever had in gaming, period. First time I fired it up, like it went into Assetto Corsa. I was sat in the 2017 Ferrari F1 car, whatever it's called, the SF70H, at Monza, and just sat there in the car looking around, looking at the grandstands, looking at the pits, and it's just this mind-blowing thing. And I was like, okay, so VR is it. VR is here. That was on an Oculus Rift CV1. I picked it up for about $500. Not cheap, but at the same time, not outrageous. But the problem we've run into is that VR technology keeps getting better and better, but it demands more of our video cards, and there could not be a worse time to try and get a video card. I don't know what it's like in your part of the world, but here in Vancouver, it's just a nightmare. Like I managed to get a 6800 XT card for 800 Canadian, which I think is about 500 or 600 US. And that same card, it's not uncommon to see it listed for about 1,500 now. Like it's almost doubled in the past year. It's just wild. So yeah, VR is amazing, but if you're not already in it, good luck getting the hardware to support it.
This will be the first time I think I've mentioned this in a video. I think I've mentioned it in like comments and stuff, but I'm pretty ashamed of myself for paying what I did. To answer your question, yeah, it's bad here still. I got my 3090 for $2,700.
Whoa.
Yeah. that was about $500 cheaper than the next best option. and then I ended up paying. This one's even more embarrassing, but I paid $1,000 for a used 5950X. So
Okay.
and now you can already have them for like retail price, at least from what I've seen. I'm like, I just felt like it was necessary, and I'm sure you get the same sort of pressure, like you know, being a content creator, right?
Yeah, yeah. I looked at the 3080. I looked at the 3090. I have a friend who works at AMD, so I was happy to support him. But it's also like, and the 3090 obviously is the high watermark, I believe, right now for video cards. But I wasn't sure the difference between the 6800 XT that I saw on the shelf when I walked into my local computer store. The difference between that and the 3090, would I be able to appreciate that? Maybe, maybe not. So, you know, at roughly twice the price, I think at the time, I was just like, 6800 will be good enough for me. And it is. It's a great little video card. I've got it running beside my 3900X. I'm probably messing up these numbers, but anyway, my AMD processor, and it's a nice little system. You know, I can get in high to ultra settings on most of my racing sims. I get 90 plus FPS, and that's good enough for me.
There's a shortage of everything right now, as you know. You know, sim racing gear included. How big of a deal do you think that is in terms of the growth of sim racing? Do you think that's hindering more people getting into it because they just can't afford it, or they literally can't get a hold of it at all?
That's an interesting question. Well, this time last year, I would have said yes, because when the big worldwide stay-at-home event happened, like you couldn't find used sim gear. At least in my area, there was just nothing. And what you could find was twice MSRP. And it was just like, well, you know, you're turning on the TV and you're well, not turning on the TV, but you're looking around social media and you're seeing people like Mario Andretti, people like Romain Grosjean, whomever, these big names in the world of motorsport, and they're sim racing at home. Cool. This is going to be the biggest, you know, explosion of sim racing we could have ever imagined. But yeah, you're right. Nobody could get their hands on gear, but it's kind of calmed down now. And I'm very, very impressed with Fanatec, and they're able to fulfill their orders. Like when they announced the CSLDD, I was like, okay, this is amazing, but terrible timing. Like they're not going to be able to get this out in any reasonable time frame. But we're recording this in late October 2021. I don't know when people are going to see this, but like they're starting to ship orders, and you're seeing more and more videos pop up, more and more, you know, appearances on social media, and they're actually delivering. So yeah, again, if it was last year, I would have said, you know, the ability to get products out to people worldwide is a big issue, but it seems to be calming down now, and there's you know, more and more listings. I still check my local paper, or sorry, my local used classifieds, whatever you call it, to see if there's any just absolute steals from the world of sim racing that I could pick up. But yeah, we're starting to see more and more like G29s, T300s, things like that pop up in the used paper. So I think it's an okay time again for people to get into sim racing. Can
you like kind of give us a tour of your gear and like some things you don't like?
I cannot, unfortunately. No. Yeah, it's a mess of cables. I never pan out too far when I'm recording a video. I've got you know, microphone cables and camera cables everywhere, and it's just a sty, and people would judge me, so I won't do that. I can send you a picture. I just got a new rig. Next Level Racing was nice enough to send me something, but I'll maybe flip you over a picture. You can edit it into the video or something. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't pull the camera back too far. It's like a episode of Hoarders or something.
Tell us about what pieces of gear that you have, and then maybe give us a short description of what you do and don't like about them.
Start at the feet and work our way up. So
there you go.
The pedals, I'm running the Heusinkveld Sprints. Really nice set of pedals. Very mechanical. Yeah, I because the top of the line at the time when I bought them was the Ultimates, and
those things are crazy expensive.
I know, exactly. Yeah. So I saved myself $500 and went with the Sprints, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. I really love them. They're a fantastic set of pedals. I guess I'm about a year into ownership now, and yeah, just a brilliant piece of equipment. My wheel is my AccuForce. You know, AccuForce kind of has a bad name. It's considered sort of lower end direct drive, but
I don't get that impression of them. Like, yeah.
Oh, okay. Every time I post about it, people come in and say, "Oh, you think that's good? that's a joke. You need to try
Oh,
SIMU
compared to like
Cube.
SIMU Cube. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I love my AccuForce. I think the software is almost second to none from what I can tell, and you can get custom profiles per game, and I think the force feedback feels fantastic. I got it at the same time. Maybe I mentioned this already, but I got it in the Black Friday sale 2017, and so I'm fully 4 years into ownership now. Never had a single issue with it. I use it, give or take, every day, and it's been perfect. I even have the original wheel, and it's Alcantara. It's wearing a little bit, but not too bad, and it's just been phenomenal for me.
Wow, 4 years.
Yeah,
and no issues. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, I didn't interrupt. Go ahead.
I could just unclip it, show everyone. But yeah, one of these buttons, it shipped without one of these buttons. Just one of the button caps had fallen off in shipping and got lost somewhere. And that was when I first received it. I let them know. 2 days later, I had a button cap. I plugged it in. That's the only time I've had to contact them about anything. Otherwise, it's been flawless. So yeah, I have lots of good things to say about AccuForce. And then my shifters is the SG Racing shifter and handbrake combo. Awesome. Another very mechanical piece of equipment, and yeah, there's just the click you get from it is just so awesome. It's just like bang when you put it in gear, because I know you're into rally racing too.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, something like paddle shifting just does not do rally racing justice, right? You need that mechanical click. I know you've been rocking the is it the Sim Magic? Is that the one?
I'm really digging it. Yeah,
right on.
Awesome.
Right on. Yeah, it looks cool. And I've noticed you have those very mechanical clicks with yours as well, and it just feels really, really good. My Next Level Racing FGT Elite cockpit, that's my new cockpit, and it's their aluminum extrusion, and yeah, it's just pretty awesome. And I'm sitting on top of a motion platform too, which I'm super stoked about.
Next Level Racing, I assume.
Yeah. They were kind enough. They don't send it to all their partners, but they sent me one earlier this year, and it's one of those things. I don't know how old you are, but if you remember when HD TV came in, you could never go back to standard def after that. And that's kind of how I feel about having this motion platform. I don't like to talk about it too much on my channel because I realize it's out of most people's budgets, but once you try like motion, it's really hard to go back. Like, it just makes everything feel so much cooler. And yeah, so that's my rig. It's at this point, it's worth more than any car I own, which is kind of a weird thing for like effectively a video game controller. But yeah, it's cool, man. I feel pretty lucky.
Would you trade your real life vehicle, you know, in terms of like never owning a car again, like one or the other, sim racing rig or a car? What would you choose between those two?
Are we talking fun or? Because I gotta admit, like I'm older, I'm a dad, and so I go to practical. Like, how am I gonna get the groceries home? You know? So in terms of fun, I've never owned a fun car. Like, I've always had just functional cars. Like, we own, between me and my wife, we own 2 Civics, and so yeah, I'm a practical guy, so I have way more fun at my rig. So in terms of pure fun, yeah, I'd take the rig over a 10-year-old Civic any day.
How am I gonna get the celery home? You know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
How important is sim racing to your daily life?
It's, other than family, it's the biggest thing in my life. Like, at this point, I mean, my content on my channel has dropped off a lot, but I'm still writing every day for Race Department, and it's everything. It's so much. Like, I'm generally writing or recording by about 5:15 in the morning, and then I leave for work around 6 or 6:30, depending on the day. Go put in my 9 to 5, come home, hang out with the family as much as possible. If they're out doing stuff, then I'm writing or recording. And then once it's bedtime for my little one, then I'm writing or recording. So it's just never not on my mind, frankly. Like, yeah, it's just, in terms of importance, it's huge.
So you value your time a lot in the sim racing world.
Yeah. I wish I had more time to like enjoy it. I don't race much for enjoyment anymore. Like, occasionally, if I'm super stressed out, I will sit down at the rig and just kind of tune out the world and, go drive I don't know, whatever I drive. But yeah, so it's a stress reliever, but more importantly, it's work. Like, I think I'm incredibly fortunate to have made even a single dollar playing video games. I think it's pretty amazing. And
Yeah.
more than that, it's connected me with, so many amazing people, and become a good chunk of my overall income, and it's, provided a better lifestyle for my family. So yeah, I'm incredibly fortunate, blessed, whatever you want to say, to have sim racing in my life. So I try and not take that for granted for a second. So it's a huge part of my life at this point.
Do you think sim racing has the capability to take over 100% as the main form of racing? Like, because now the EPA is really cracking down on emissions.
Right. No, I don't. I'll tell you a little story. So one of my earliest childhood memories, I think I was about 7 or 8 at the time, and or maybe a little or whatever it was. But my first ever Indy race, my dad took me to see the Molson Indy Vancouver in the late 80s, early 90s. And I remember walking towards the site, and we were probably 10 blocks away, and you could hear these big, I think they were running turbo V8s at the time. You could hear these engines echoing off all the buildings, and it just stuck with me. Like, it just became, what's that?
The power, right?
Power. Yeah. Just everything it represented. And I've never felt that same level of, just tingles and just something that's going to stay with me. I've never felt that from sim racing. I mean, it's possible if I was, elite level, it's possible if I was an esports champion, you might get some degree of that. But I think there's just something,
like visceral?
Yeah, visceral, exactly. The sounds, the smells, being, with thousands of other people who share your passion. I think there's just something about that. I mean, it's possible that motorsports will turn all electric in the next few decades. Who knows?
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't think live in-person racing will ever be replaced by sim racing. I think that sim racing is amazing, and it's going to continue to get more amazing, but I think they're probably running parallel paths. I don't think they'll ever crossover, frankly. I think there's a place for both.
With the inclusion of VR into that same question, with how much more immersive VR is making everything, and the advancements in, like there's like gloves where you can feel like objects in real life. When it comes to the point to when all that stuff comes together in one experience, like the best audio, the best visual, and you have like a tactile feedback suit, like you think you'd be able to replicate that sort of same visceral experience, like being there and walking around in a virtual space?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. I mean, who knows how long that'll take, and who knows how good the technology will be once it gets there. Yeah, I don't know. I just have a feeling. I just have a feeling that the two will never fully cross over. I think there's always, because racing itself is a very, very old thing, right? Like before they were cars, they raced horses or whatever it is. Yeah, foot race, exactly. So yeah, I don't think that'll ever be replaced in electronic form. I might be totally wrong about that, but my personal feeling is that both will always exist. And even at its best, I can't imagine any sim racing experience being as good as driving a car. I don't know what you drive or what you have driven in the past, if you've ever driven a high performance car, but I had a chance to drive a Ferrari once. Ooh. And F430. It's just next level.
It's different.
There's nothing you can do in sim racing that's even close to that. You got this, big V8 about, 12 inches behind you, and you can feel it shaking you. And there's nothing like that in sim racing, in my opinion. But who knows? What do you think?
I do think it'll become more mainstream, and I think it'll eventually become like more or less proving grounds for real racing. Like, I mean, it already is, but it might even end up being like almost like a prerequisite, like to prove yourself. Like your resume. It could be your resume. If you can't afford a car, because race cars, no matter what, like the most expensive sim rig is most likely not going to match the most expensive real race car. Like from like a team. You could do some like welding in your garage kind of stuff, but I think it'd be a nice way just to kind of prove that you have the skills and the abilities to get popped into one of their race cars, you know, if you're sponsored or whatever. So I think it could be like that. The fact that all of our senses are, you know, so connected to our brain, like, you know, our brain is what interprets what we feel and what we experience, you know, and how we interpret things. So I think eventually we'll get to the point to where we'll be able to, you know, activate those parts of our brains that make us feel the sensations and that satisfaction. You know, I don't want to get like too far into like what Elon Musk is doing on your interview, but you know, with the Neuralink and stuff, like I think all that stuff is going to be possible. Not maybe like in the very near future, but maybe 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more of a reality. But getting back into sim racing gear, what's the one piece of gear that you're, besides the CSLDD, because I know that you already kind of own it. You don't have it in your hands, but you know, you're stoked on it. What's one piece of gear that you're really keeping your eyes on in terms of like you know, something that really catches your eye? You're like wow, that's awesome.
I know exactly what it is. It's the GSI. Do you know Gomez Sim Industries at all?
No, I've never heard of them,
smaller company. I can't remember where he's out of. If you're familiar with a channel called the Sim Pit, they interviewed they interviewed him recently. I think it's like a 1 or 2 person operation, and they make wheels, and they're the most awesome wheels. I need to find a way to get these in my hand. They're like $1,000 US. Yeah, I know it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a splurge. But when you get a second, check out GSI and look at their wheels. Gomez Sim Industries, if I'm not mistaken, and it's just the nicest looking wheel. And I hope to own one at some point in the future. But right now, it's a little out of the price range.
That's interesting. I've never heard of them. What game do you think is most pushing the industry forward?
I'm gonna say it's Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Okay.
And I'm a little biased because I run leagues through ACC. But it's it's just a really first of all, it's a great sim racing title. Like they've really nailed it. It's only GT3 and GT4 cars, so people think it's limited, and that's true. But I like the fact that because it was only one and then later a second race series, they were able to just laser focus in on that. How good can we make these cars? How accurate can we be with the physics? And you know, they had full access to track data from all these cars, and you know, they got the sounds right.
Oh, yeah.
And they just absolutely nailed it. And not just that, it's so good, in fact, that it's crossed over. Like, you can score real world SRO points from your performance in ACC, which is...
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So at endurance events in the SRO, so I think it's Monza, Spa, they have the drivers, I think I'm kind of fudging some of the details here, but basically one driver from each team can go. They have all these big Fanatec setups with ACC, and they race like it's a live race, and these are real world drivers, and the winner gets championship points. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's this incredible crossover between sim racing and real racing. And that just blows my mind. So they've kind of broken down that last barrier between sim racing and real racing in terms of legitimizing it. So yeah, that to me is the sim that's kind of, you know, pushing the envelope and doing things right, because I'm a big fan of Automobilista too, but I would say there's probably too much content. Like, they might have spread themselves too thin with it. And I'm probably overall more of a proponent of what Kunos has done with just taking GT3 cars and getting them exactly right. So yeah, to me, it's ACC.
What about gear wise? What company do you think is like really pushing to really make this broader? You know,
you'd have to go Fanatec. You'd have to go Fanatec. I mean, they got their banners all over the SRO events now, and you know, people who've never sim raced in their life or know anything about sim racing, they go to live races now. I believe they're even up in, you know, the GT America Championship Series, and people will go to these events by the thousands and see these Fanatec what's the word, banners, Fanatec banners everywhere, and be like, what the heck is that? And go to the website and see, like, oh, that's interesting. And you know, they're a title sponsor of GT was it GT World Championship Europe, whatever it's called. So they're really getting their name out there. They're really putting sim racing at the forefront. You could probably make a case for Thrustmaster as well, because they're so big in the flight sim game that when people visit their website, they also see the sim racing gear. So those would probably be the two hardware companies I would say are kind of leading the charge in terms of making sim racing more mainstream.
Yeah, and I think Thrustmaster is a bigger overall name, just based on, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 33 now. And,
took you a second, but you got
because I was like, I don't really keep track of my birthdays anymore. But Thrustmaster has been a company I've known for a big portion of my life. So they have that recognizable name, and and Fanatic's been around for a lot longer than I knew about. But yeah, I do agree. Thrustmaster is definitely on that same train of getting sim racing out to the people and letting them know about it. So
yeah, and it's cool. I think also, just jumping back to Fanatic for a second, or Fanatec.
Yeah, I'm rubbing off on you, man.
They also they're going the other way. They've brought real world steering wheels into sim racing, which is pretty cool. Like their new BMW M4 GT3 wheel, which I think is coming at the end of this year, maybe early next. And that's pretty amazing that you could just pull it right off your sim rig and go plant it in a race car, and it's FIA certified. And, that's just mind blowing. I mean, hopefully it doesn't cost $3,000 for this wheel or something crazy.
You tested out the Thrustmaster
T248.
How is that compared to the T150? I know it's a kind of a replacement, right?
Yeah. They market everything toward the T150, which I can't figure out because I think it's closer to the T300, which I did own.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never owned a T150 or I think the other one is the TMX or whatever it is, but it's closer in power to the T300, and frankly, it's better in every way, except the materials. It's almost all plastic. The T248 is almost all plastic, which is a weird move. I don't know why Thrustmaster did that. Like going from the T300, which has at least the metal wheel on it, like it feels more like a steering wheel. This one's all plastic, but the force feedback is tremendous. It's really great, and plug and play with my PlayStation, and it's got this little display on it, this little LCD display, which I mean, most people will just use their heads-up display in the game to get all the information, but it's a nice to have, and through that you can access the menu, which is on board with the wheel, and change it between, I think it's 270, 540, or 900 degrees of rotation. There's just a lot of really good things about the T248, and I hope they do well with it. I think it deserves recognition. It's a really, really good wheel. Like, I used my G29, as I told you off the start of this interview. I used my G29 since 2017, and it was still my console wheel up until I tried the T248. But it's not even on the same level. The T248 is just so much better, so much better. So yeah, I think it's going to be big if they can get this, to ship to a lot of people really soon. Hopefully, there's no production issues or anything like that. But I think people are really going to love it. It's a great wheel.
When I first saw it, the styling is really off-putting to me. I feel like it kind of looks more like something you'd see like in a PT Cruiser in terms of styling.
Yep.
I see what they're going with. I think they're kind of going with like a modern sort of aesthetic.
Yeah.
Because that's what you'd find in, like a modern Ford vehicle. Like you go in there, like the wheel spokes kind of look like that.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of like trying to feel out the market for, are people looking for like this race looking stuff or stuff that they can relate to their own vehicle maybe?
Yeah, it's an interesting design choice. It's actually the closest I've found. We don't have them in North America here, but it's an Opel, and I can't remember the name of the model, but there's an Opel car that has an almost identical steering wheel, and it looks like that's what they must have based the design on, which is a really random choice. I don't know why they did that, but I agree. It doesn't blow you away with its first appearances, but in terms of how it drives, I'll definitely go to bat for it. Like, I think people in that sort of, let's say, $200 to $500 range looking for a wheelbase and pedal set, nothing I've tried is as good. So I wish them luck with it. I hope they get it out there, because it's a really good wheelbase set.
How do you feel about like standardization? Like one of the things I find is kind of frustrating about sim racing gear in particular is a lot of things are proprietary connections. And I know it's the same in the automotive world too, but like I feel like if there was more interchangeability with things, I feel like all the companies might benefit from it. It just feels so limiting, you know? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you know, I studied business in university, and I have a pretty good idea of why these companies do these things. You know, they want to keep people in their, you know, ecosystem. Yeah. I totally get it from the marketing perspective, but you're right. As a consumer, it's pretty frustrating that, you know, in the PC world, we're fairly lucky. Like if it has a USB connection, I'm going to say most or all racing sims at this point allow multiple inputs. So it's usually not a big deal to us in the PC world. But yeah, you're right. Like on console, it can be super frustrating because, you know, you might own...
You have like two choices.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be nice if they all kind of spoke the same language, but I'm not convinced that's high on anybody's priority list at this point. Yeah. Like they want to keep it to where it's proprietary, and you have to, you know, if you go the Fanatec way, you have to stay the Fanatec way, or same as Logitech, or same as Thrustmaster. So yeah, it's just business.
Mostly affects the people that are fans of using multiple wheel rims. I see it being a problem for them because, you know, once they buy like 2 or 3 wheel rims, they want to stay in that ecosystem. Like, and it's almost like they're limiting themselves because they don't want to make all this stuff over here obsolete, you know, and they don't want to go through the hassle of having to sell it. So I see it being mostly a problem for them specifically, but I guess that wasn't really a question. That was more of a statement, the last thing I said. But how do you feel about the community? Do you feel like we kind of more or less come together, supportive? There's no like shaming. Like how do you feel? Like is it toxic?
It's a great question. I'm kind of two minds, frankly. Like I don't know how long you've been aware of my channel, but in April of this year there was a big thing with copyright strikes, and my channel almost got taken away forever, and blah blah blah. And the level of support I got is just unreal. It felt like everybody in the sim community came together, and I mean, we're talking guys like Jimmy Broadbent, we're talking guys like Gamer Muscle, Random Call Sign. These huge channels all stopped what they were doing to help me out, and you know, help get my channel back on track, which meant everything. And like the amount of emails and DMs and videos that I saw all showing support for me is just amazing. So like my faith in the community at that point was just at an all-time high. It was just amazing that we could come together. It was weird that it was around me, of course, but it was just so encouraging to see so much of the community, you know, united behind one cause. So there's that. So in that sense, I'm very positive about the community. But at the same time, and I'm sure you get this, putting out videos, and I get it with putting out articles on Race Department and putting out videos, is that there is a lot of people who choose to be negative and choose to put you down. And I'm not talking, like sometimes I'll make a legitimate mistake in something I'm recording, like
tech specs or something like that, or
exactly. I might get the specs of the car wrong, or be talking about hardware and, you know, say the wrong thing about compatible, whatever it is, and people will say, hey, just so you know, this is actually whatever, a turbo V8, not a twin turbo V8. And it's like, okay, fair enough. Thank you for pointing that out. But there's also people who kind of, it feels like they just want to be heard, even if it's a negative thing.
Like they'll just get attention.
Yeah, just to get attention. And you know, they'll throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like you might you might put out a 20-minute video, and then you say something that triggers them, and they try and take you down for it, right? Just one small thing, and they, you know, the whole thing blows up in their mind, and they got to go on and comment like, hey, you suck, you don't know what you're talking about, please delete this video. Like I've had literally people tell me to delete videos, and it's just like, why don't you just not watch? I don't like Celine Dion, so I don't watch Celine Dion videos. Right? And if one pops up on my feed, I don't click it. And if one was on, if I don't know, if it somehow got, you know, auto played on YouTube, a Celine Dion video, I'd just move on to the next. Like, I don't know why people would choose to comment like Celine Dion sucks. You know what I mean? Who would do that? It just doesn't.
I get you.
Yeah, it's not in my mindset to try and take people down. So I don't know why people do it to me or you or whoever else. Like, it just seems like it would be so easy to just click away and just go on to the next thing. It's kind of getting away from your question, but
no, that's good.
Yeah. So there's again, I'm of two minds. Like, the community can be amazing and just overwhelmingly positive, and you know, sometimes you just feel the genuine passion for motorsport that people in sim racing have, and then other times, you know, a small percentage of people will just want to see sim racing burn, it feels like. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. I think that's the definition of love to hate. You know, there's some people out there that just love to hate things, you know.
Right.
And they're on your video like, I hate clicking on your videos. It's like, okay. Then don't, you know. So,
exactly.
Every video I post since like probably the last 5-6 years, almost as soon as I post a video, almost every time I get one thumbs down. There's this one person out there that like watches every one of my videos just to hate me. And I'm like, damn, that's dedication. But yeah, there are true people out there that like live to kind of feed off that sort of negative energy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, that one dislike, that's a good sign, believe it or not. That means you made it. That means you're not just some random guy putting out videos that nobody's watching. If somebody cares enough to watch your videos just to dislike it, you know you've made it.
A lot of people don't realize it, but a dislike is the same thing as a like on YouTube in terms of
the algorithm.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Like, if you really severely dislike something, do not comment on it. Do not thumbs down, because comments, thumbs downs, views, all that kind of stuff only helps the person that you disagree with. So
the comments are weird too. Like, I get comments. Some people will write paragraphs, long paragraphs about how terrible my videos are. And the thing is, my revenge on them, my small piece of revenge, is that I don't read them. Like, as soon as as soon as it starts out,
tasty.
Well, yeah, they're going off, and the first sentence is how much I suck. Why am I going to keep reading that? Like, of course I'm going to skip through, and usually I just reply with like a "sounds good, bud" or something like that. So they've wasted like a big part of their day. So anyway, that's a small bit of revenge that I take on these people. So
I try to talk to every person that comments on my videos, negative or positive, and the negative ones, they're a bit of a challenge. You know, sometimes they really hurt my feelings, you know, with some things they say. And I don't think people realize how much you can actually, you know, hurt someone's feelings with some things you say on the internet. But, a lot of times those same people, though, if you just talk to them, you know, and really get to the bottom of why they're mad, a lot of times you end up being friends. And some of my subscribers that have really stuck with me are people that when we started out, like, they hated on one of my videos and they thought we'd never talk again. Why do you hate this? You know, like, you know, explain to me. Like, maybe I can get to the bottom of it. You know, I've actually had some actual like online relationships start because of that negative energy that they exuded at first. So
that's amazing.
Not saying everyone has time to do that though. That's the thing.
Well, that's a great story, though. Yeah, I've never had it go that far. I have had people walk it back to the point where they say, "I'm sorry, I was having a bad day, and it wasn't fair to you." I've never had it, you know, go into a friendship like you have. That's pretty amazing. But there has been a few times where somebody goes in and just goes off, "You suck," blah blah blah, and I go in, and reply and just be like, "Hey, sorry you feel that way. I don't agree with your points, but I appreciate you watching just the same." And they'll come back and say, "Hey, thanks. Sorry, it came off wrong. I don't like everything about your video, but sorry if I came off like an a-hole," kind of thing. Yeah. And that's a win.
Yeah, it's a win for both. Yeah,
exactly.
Going back to sim racing stuff like the actual games, you had mentioned how important like the visceral sounds and things were of actually being there like at a race and things. And being a sim racer, we hear that sound the entire time we're racing. We hear the sound of our own engine just like blasting in our ears. How important do you think it is for the experience overall to have good sound design in a game?
A lot. I think it's a lot. Yeah. I don't know. Are you into Assetto Corsa at all?
It's in my top 3 probably.
Okay, cool. So I don't know if you know the 911 RSR. A friend of my channel's, he went by AC Fan at the time. He's now known as SHR Modding, and he created a sound mod for this car. And I believe it's the best sounding car in all of sim racing. Like, he just absolutely nailed it. And yeah, I drive that car just to hear those sounds. Like, it just... you can hear it booming off the grandstands when you're driving, and when you watch a replay, like, it screams by. And yeah, it's just really amazing. And it adds something, because I mean, we're limited on our senses slightly. Like, let's say you don't run motion, then you're not going to feel much of the car, other than through your force feedback. Obviously there's no smells. And then if you're
unless you make your own while you're
yeah, there you go. But anyway, all this to say that you're somewhat limited in your senses, so visuals and sounds mean a lot, right? Yeah. So because those are two you can replicate in sim. And so yeah, if the sounds are absent, it can totally ruin a car. Like I mean, there's mods that I've driven in the past where it's just like, well, you did everything but the sounds, and now I can't really drive your car, unfortunately. And there's others where I drive the car specifically for the sound. Another good example is the M1 Pro car from, I guess it's 1979 in Race Room Racing Experience. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what the BMW M1 engine was at that time, but yeah, it's just a really unique engine note. And Race Room just nailed it. And it's such a fun car to drive, if for no other reason than just to hear this thing screaming in your headphones. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to put it on the extreme end of the spectrum, you could take like a Assetto Corsa Competizione, and if you had just like some guy in the back, you know, the back room, just like going like and making all the noises, you wouldn't even give it the time of day, right?
Yeah. And we have a bit of that with Formula E, right? Because it's trying to make and there's some big name drivers driving for Formula E now. There's some legit, names in motorsports driving for Formula E, but I think one of the biggest things you could take away from it is the sounds, right? It sounds like a power drill. And there's no really getting around that. I'm going to see it live. They're coming to Vancouver in 2022, and it'll be interesting to see what it sounds like live. But on TV, it feels like it's missing something. And when you play it in sim, like R Factor 2 has a proper Formula E series that they sell as DLC, and yeah, it's hard to get past the fact that there's basically no engine note. It's just this screech of an electric motor. So yeah, when it's not there, when the sound is not there, it takes away some points from the enjoyment for sure.
What do you think is missing from sim racing? It could be the community, it could be games, it could be hardware. What do you think is missing? Anything that you see as a glaring, like, man, I wish they had this for, it could be like maybe sim racing floor mats, sim racing back windshield wipers, like just to have, sim racing cigarette lighter. I don't know what's missing,
that's a tough question. I'm gonna say something, and I haven't fully thought this out, and there's some glaring holes in it, but one thing I would like to see is some like sanctioning body for sim racing. And it would be nice because, okay, if you're not a part of a league, if you just want to join a race, you're taking your chances in online lobbies, which are notoriously bad, right? Yeah. You jump into ACC, let's say, and jump onto one of their scheduled races and go to Monza, or even better, if you jump into just a random public lobby in ACC and they're racing Monza, let's say, it's going to be chaos at turn 1. that's just inevitable. And it's the same with every sim. You know, it usually is Monza at Silverstone or Spa, and it's probably GT3 cars, no matter what sim you're talking about. And it's just going to be chaos. And I think if there was some sort of, again, it's not a fully fleshed out idea, but I think if there was a sanctioning body that basically, if you had to maintain points, let's say, and you're involved in a collision at one of the sanctioned races, you lose points. Okay, so somebody who's a troll and just there to knock everyone else off the track is maybe going to be a negative 2,000 for points, and he or she doesn't get to race in future events. Whereas if you drive safe, if you drive fast, you can build up a score. And, you know, when you enter these sanctioned races, it lines you up with people approximately of your skill set. And you continue to basically manage a career in terms of sim racing. And I think it would be good to have, like, I don't know what you'd call this sanctioning body, but let's just call it the Sim Racing Association for now, SRA. And, you know, maybe SRA could put their stamp on certain sims. And yes, this meets minimum requirements for what we feel a simulator should be. That way it, you know, pushes the game developers to become very, you know, precise in what they put out. Same as hardware manufacturers. You could have SRA stamped hardware. Yes, this is a good value. You know, it doesn't have to be a $2,000 wheelbase. It could be a $100 wheelbase. But if it meets the quality requirements of the Sim Racing Association, then you know you're getting something good. Right now,
Sim Racing Association. That's that's a nice ring to it.
Yeah,
Huh?
patent pending.
Yeah.
But it would just be nice if there was one sanctioning body that everyone knew they could trust. And, you know, instead of having, like we were talking just a while ago about standardizing things, right? Yeah. So maybe one of the SRA initiatives could be to, you know, standardize the hardware connections or whatever it may be.
Hey.
And again, instead of having disparate hardware companies and disparate racing sims and people arguing about this one is so much better than this one, maybe it could all be standardized under one sanctioning body.
That's a thought. I mean, I know games already exist with that sort of feature implemented, but to have it across multiple games, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And not just games, hardware too.
You know, you could have like qualifying in the games to kind of reprove yourself. Like if you get into a negative zone, like where you've just done too much, you can't play online, you'd have like maybe like a time trial thing, like where you prove yourself, like you're able to stay on track, you're able to keep pace with the AI or something like that.
There you go. Getting back to hardware, like if you were shopping around for a new wheel and you had $500 to spend, rather than, you know, risking or taking your chances with company X and they have this wheel that they say is the best wheel ever made, well, does it have an SRA stamp on it? If it does, you know it's of a minimum quality standard, right? And then
I like that.
Again, tying it back. Oh, actually, we discussed this offline, but we had talked about, you know, customer service and how important that is. Yeah. And maybe if a hardware or game developer doesn't give that level of customer service, maybe they, you know, get flagged within the SRA. That way, it just keeps everything up.
Man,
yeah,
I like that. How important do you think is customer service to a company's, you know, just a company overall?
Unbelievably so. I mean, we're in one of the most expensive video game genres you could imagine, right? Like, I mean, I'm sitting in something worth 10,000 Canadian roughly. Yeah. Like that's just a ridiculous amount of money to spend on video games. And so you expect, and you frankly deserve, that if something goes wrong with an investment that large, that you can call somebody up or email somebody and have a reasonably prompt response with a you know, reasonable resolution to whatever the problem is. And I recognize the fact that most of the companies we deal with are comparatively small teams, right? It's not like I don't know, let's look at software for a second. You know, like I'm sure there's games you play where there's obvious bugs and you're like, well, why the heck don't these guys fix this bug? Like, it's ruining this for me. But you might be talking to a team of 12 people, right? Yeah. Whereas, you know, if you're into sports games, standard sports games, and you're talking about EA Sports, there's thousands of people that work on these games, so you expect that level of customer service. So I do grant a little bit of, or I give a little bit more patience to sim hardware and software developers in terms of, that level of customer service. But at the same time, I hope they recognize that being... You good?
Yeah, someone's knocking on the door.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing an interview. What's up? Okay. Yeah, we're good.
Cool. I gotta jump pretty quick too.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 5 or 10 more minutes if that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope the companies recognize how important it is to us as consumers too, and it's a pretty easy way to get a leg up on the competition, frankly. Like, I mean, if you look at somebody like a Reza Studios, they made Automobilista 2, and it's one of the most criticized racing sims you can talk about. People just haven't liked it, or not people, but some percentage hasn't liked it from the very start. But they've been very candid and they've been very open. They're in their forums all the time responding to these criticisms. What's that?
Full transparency is infused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I interviewed the head of Reza Studios for Race Department quite recently. And I just put the questions out there, like, you've heard the criticisms. What do you think of these criticisms? He recognized that some of it was right. And that to me is a awesome level of customer service. Like, we hear you, we're working on it. We recognize that we're not perfect. The criticisms are making it through, and we're working on it. So, to me, it's a great way for a company to get ahead and be looked upon in a favorable light, because there's another company, and I'll keep their name out of it, but they're notorious for not listening. Right? Like they make posts on social media about a game they put out last year that just absolutely, or was it this year? Anyway, they put out a game somewhat recently that just absolutely tanked, and you look at their social media, and it's like nothing is wrong. It's like
they're ignoring everything. Acting like it's the best thing ever.
Okay. And it's just ridiculous, because and to me that's exactly the opposite of customer service. You're not listening to the people who buy your product, and that's really frustrating.
It's kind of like an open wound, right? Like if you let it bleed, like, it does have a chance to heal, because it's like, the blood's coagulating, it's healing. But if you're just like hiding it, you can't get help, like, if you're a big company and you're just ignoring the problems, like, and you're not acknowledging them, like, the problem's never going to get better. And as well as I do, they know their own issues, because they're the ones that made the game, like they got people that tested it and said, like, hey, well, this doesn't work. Like, what's that about? And they're like, just go with it. But
we're on the cusp of NASCAR Ignition coming out, and it's supposed to, be the best NASCAR game ever. And everything leading up to, all the marketing leading up to the first gameplay trailers was phenomenal, right? They got R Factor 2's physics engine, and they're using the Unreal Engine for graphics, and everything seems perfect on paper. And then they sent it out to, a select group of content creators, and the feedback has just been terrible. And you wonder how it ever got shipped out the door in this broken state. But again, talking customer service, they have responded, and they said, we share your passion. We're working through it. So
okay. They can heal.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I really appreciate your time, man, and I appreciate you reaching out to me on this, and I enjoy you as a person.
Right on. Likewise, man. Like I said, I'm fairly new. I've only been watching your videos for a couple of months, I guess, but really glad I found you, and I enjoy the heck out of your content. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can do this again at some point in the future.
That's the end of the video. Have a good day. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.